Redirect examination is underway of expert witness Doug Daus in former President Trump's hush money trial. Daus is the expert who extracted the data from Michael Cohen's phones. And before that testimony started, former President Trump spoke outside the courtroom, ignoring comments on whether he'll take the stand and saying he'll be filing a motion against his gag order. The judge then told Trump in the courtroom that he has the absolute right to testify after Trump claimed the gag order prevents him from doing so. Let's go to ABC News senior reporter Catherine Falders and ABC News legal contributor Brian Buckmeyer for more. Catherine, what's the latest from the courtroom?
Yeah, so the Trump attorneys and the prosecutors actually are going back and forth here pretty quickly, cross-examining and examining this witness that they have on the stand right now, who is this forensic analyst of Michael Cohen's phones. We've been talking a lot about the data that's been extracted from Cohen's phones. So what Trump's lawyers are trying to do now in court is cast doubt on the integrity of that data that was extracted from Michael Cohen's phones, including that one of the recordings that we heard yesterday, that's September 6, 2016 recording of Cohen and Trump. Now, Trump's lawyers are trying to say that Cohen did this factory reset on his phone, if you will, on October 15th, so about a little over a month after that recording, saying that maybe the recording's been tampered with, that could affect what we're hearing. And the witness is saying, well, essentially doubling down on the integrity of that recording. He's saying, you know, it's not unusual for this to happen, for example. So what Trump's lawyers are still trying to do is cast doubt on the data on that phone. They're going back and forth right now. Prosecutors are questioning this particular witness again and again. This is all to get to, obviously, we have this credibility issue with Michael Cohen, but what Trump's lawyers are trying to do is essentially say, well, you can't really believe the data that was on his phone. It could have been tampered with. He did these factory resets. He had all these encrypted apps, one that was in self-destruct mode, if you will. So that's kind of where we are in court right now. He's still on the stand, and we'll be interested to see who the next witness is.
Brian, there was also this big moment at the end of cross-examination when the defense asked Douglas Daus, we would have to take Michael Cohen's word for it in terms of the integrity of that recording on the phone. And Daus responded, it would seem so. How effective was that line of questioning, and how crucial is this phone evidence to the prosecution's case?
So it's crucial in the sense of we are getting information outside of Michael Cohen that is hopefully, for the prosecution, going to corroborate his testimony down the line. But I think it's great for the defense in the sense of that last line that you just read there. They're kind of setting up the dominoes, so to speak, that if Michael Cohen isn't believed, they get to go back and say, remember that analyst who said that we have to ultimately rely on the credibility of Michael Cohen when it comes to the authenticity or the lack of manipulation for this device? Well, and I'm arguing as if I'm the defense attorney, well, we've shown that Michael Cohen can't be believed in X, Y, and Z, so why should we believe him in A, B, and C, being those recorded documents? They're setting themselves up for a great argument down the road. It's just whether or not they can execute on showing that Michael Cohen is someone that cannot be believed when he takes a stand.
Now, the defense also asked about this 4-day gap between the Manhattan DA receiving Michael Cohen's phones and then delivering them to the unit that processes them. They also asked another question about the receipt form for the phone. Are these points enough to raise reasonable doubt about the data on that phone? Brian?
So what they're arguing is what we call a chain of custody. It's when an item or piece of evidence, typically used in terms of law enforcement, when they pick up, let's say, a gun, for example, and they have it all the way up until when it's presented at trial. If there's any kind of missing link in that chain of custody, you can argue the potential for manipulation or for destruction or any alteration of that evidence. I don't think it's going to be that, again, that nail in the coffin, that smoking gun that the juror's going to say, hey, because it took 4 days for him to turn this over, even though Daus said there's no evidence of manipulation, we think that there could have been. But I think it's the idea of if the defense can stack up enough of these small victories or these small issues, that they can then present a much larger issue come summation. So it's more a building block issue than the whole house itself.
Catherine, Douglas Daus is now off the stand. He's done testifying. Anything else stick out to you from his testimony overall?
No, look, I think that last line of questioning that Brian brought up, where they ultimately have to rely on Michael Cohen, was exactly what the defense wanted to get out of him, out of this witness, because obviously they are casting Michael Cohen as somebody who has no credibility, has been convicted of lying. So I think that's ultimately what they were trying to get at there. He's off the stand now, I see from our team there, so they'll call the next witness. But surely these recordings, at least, that we heard, that the jury heard at least one time, from this witness at least, as they were trying to get it into evidence, we will surely hear more of that when Michael Cohen inevitably takes the stand.
Catherine, yesterday we also saw a shift in how Trump handles remarks outside the courtroom. He asked reporters if they had any questions after court adjourned for the day. But then today, he went back to his usual style of just talking to the cameras before entering the courtroom. What do you make of that?
Yeah, it's a good question. Who can really figure here? I know that there was some debate in court yesterday about Trump going up to the press, or he wasn't seeking out the press was seeking out him. So maybe it could have been some of that strategy, asking if we had any questions at that camera out there. But again, that's what he likes to do. As you saw this morning, he wants to talk to the camera, say what he wants to say, and frankly doesn't want to take any difficult questions. So look, I don't know. That strategy could shift again when we see him before the cameras again. He could take more questions. But I think really it just totally depends on how he's feeling in that moment. And I know that his lawyers, frankly, would probably prefer that he doesn't go up to the cameras. But that ship has sailed. They can't really prevent that from happening. But they would prefer, obviously, that he not violate the gag order anymore.
Brian, Judge Merchan is also considering motions to hold Trump in contempt again for alleged gag order violations. What are you expecting there, given the judge's responses at the hearing and how he ruled on the previous violations?
I think we're looking at 4 potential violations of the gag order. At the very least, I think Donald Trump is going to be found in contempt of court, or to violate the gag order, probably more appropriate to say, when it comes to his comments to the jurors. Judge Merchan and any judge will be very particular about any orders that may harm or challenge the integrity of a jury. They are probably the most protected individuals in that courtroom, second to, if not close to, the judge themselves. And so I think with that, he'll be found to be in violation. And I think he might get a much sterner warning as to the possibility of jail time because of that. As to the other potential violations, I still think he might be found in contempt. He might beat 1 or 2 of them because the burden may not be there. But I'm really looking at that juror one, how the judge comes down on Donald Trump as to that one.
All right, Catherine Falders, Brian Buckmeyer, thank you.